I still remember the exact smell of Union Station that night. Hot pretzels, diesel fumes, and the metallic tang of the brakes leaving the air when a train is getting ready to leave. It was supposed to be the smell of a new beginning. Instead, it became the smell of the worst thing I have ever almost done. My name is Marcus Everett Hale, 41 years old now. Federal inmate number 48721-083, United States Penitentiary, Hazelton, Brewston Mills, West Virginia. But 5 years ago, I was just a regular DC dad in khakis and a North Face jacket, standing on platform 22 holding my 6-year-old son Eli's hand, while my wife Vanessa wrestled 2 rolling suitcases and a backpack shaped like a rocket ship. We were boarding the Capital Limited, the overnight Amtrak to Chicago. Vanessa's parents were meeting us at the other end with pancakes and hugs and all the things grandparents do when they haven't seen their only grandson in 8 months. On the surface, it was a wholesome family adventure. Underneath, it was the coldest, most calculated murder plot I hope any human being has ever abandoned at the last second, because I was the one who paid to have that train derailed. I had already transferred $25,000, half the agreed fee, to a man named Rocky Marciano, a name so on the nose it would have been funny if it weren't so terrifying. Rocco was a former enforcer for a Baltimore loan shark ring I'd gotten tangled up with after a 3-year spiral into online poker and sports betting. The other half of the 50 grand was supposed to be wired the moment the news alerts started pinging about a catastrophic derailment somewhere in the mountains of West Virginia. The plan was brutally simple. I would be in the diner car getting a 2 a.m. coffee when the train hit the sabotaged switch just east of Cumberland. The sleeper cars, ours included, would separate from the rest of the train, roll down an embankment, and burst into flames. By the time rescuers arrived, Vanessa and Eli would be gone. I would be found dazed but alive in the diner car with a dozen witnesses who saw me order a decaf and a slice of pie 20 minutes earlier. Tragic mechanical failure, faulty track maintenance, Amtrak's aging infrastructure. The headlines would write themselves. $6 million in life insurance money would hit my account within weeks. The gambling debts would disappear. I'd cry on television, set up college funds in Eli's name that no one would ever check, and quietly move to Costa Rica or Portugal or anywhere that didn't have an extradition treaty and where nobody asked too many questions. I told myself it was the only way out. I told myself they wouldn't feel a thing. I told myself a lot of things that sound insane when you say them out loud in a concrete box with a stainless steel toilet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how a man who once coached t-ball and cried at his wedding vows ends up standing on a train platform with murder in his heart and a burner phone in his coat pocket. It started, like most slow-motion train wrecks do, with a single bad decision that felt harmless at the time. 2017. I was 36, senior policy analyst for a K Street lobbying firm that represented railroad companies of all things. The irony is not lost on me. 6-figure salary, corner office with a view of the Capitol Dome, company Amex, the whole package. Vanessa taught 3rd grade in Arlington. Eli was 2. We had a mortgage we could afford, 2 cars that ran, and a golden retriever named Scout who thought fetch was a religion. We got bored. Not the I need a new hobby kind of bored. The soul-deep, middle-class, midlife, what is all this for kind of bored. I started playing online poker during conference calls. $10 here, $20 there. Then $100 buy-ins. Then $1,000 tournaments at 3 a.m. when everyone else in the house was asleep. I won at first, big, enough to buy Vanessa the diamond earrings she'd been eyeing and tell her it was a performance bonus. The rush was better than any drug I'd ever tried. Then the losses came. I chased them like alcoholics chase the next drink. I told myself I was good enough to get it back. I told myself I had a system. By 2019, I was $500,000 in the hole, credit cards maxed, 401k drained, second mortgage on the house Vanessa didn't know about. The firm's Christmas party that year I spent in the bathroom throwing up from anxiety while everyone else toasted with champagne. That's when the real predators showed up. Not the banks with their polite notices. Men who sent photos of Eli's school to my phone with captions like, "Cute kid, be ashamed if he had to transfer schools." Men who knew which metro stop I used and what time I got off the train every night. I paid what I could. It was never enough. Interest compounded faster than I could breathe. One night, in a windowless room above a Baltimore pawn shop, a man with a broken nose and a voice like gravel offered me a lifeline. Keep playing, but play for them. They'd stake you. You'd win their money back plus a percentage. If you lost, well, there were other ways to settle. I lost. Of course I lost. By spring 2020, I owed them $842,000, and they were no longer asking nicely. They wanted the house, they wanted Vanessa's car, they wanted to know if I had life insurance on my family for collateral purposes. That was the moment the idea first crawled into my head like a parasite. What if something happened to Vanessa and Eli? Not me doing it, God no. An accident, a random, tragic, lightning strike accident, the kind that happens to other people on the news, the kind that comes with giant insurance payouts and sympathy and a fresh start. I started researching accidental ways people die that paid double indemnity. House fires, car crashes, boating mishaps, train derailments. I read NTSB reports the way other men read porn. I learned about grade crossing collisions, switch failures, broken rails in remote areas. I learned that older Amtrak routes in West Virginia still used manual switches in places, that freight trains took precedence over passenger trains, that if a sleeper car decoupled at 60 miles an hour on a curve. I told myself I was just thinking, fantasizing, the way you think about quitting your job or robbing a bank when you're angry. But fantasies have a way of becoming plans when the alternative is a broken kneecap or worse. I found Rocco through a dark web forum I accessed using the library computer at work, because even murderers are paranoid about home Wi-Fi. His ad was simple: East Coast problems solved discreetly, no questions, cash only. I sent a message from a burner email. He replied within 6 minutes. We met in the parking lot of a shuttered Roy Rogers in Laurel, Maryland. He was shorter than I expected, thick-necked, prison tattoos climbing his throat. He didn't shake my hand. "Train's good," he said after I laid it out. "Hard to trace, lots of moving parts, lots of blame to go around. But it costs." "50, I said, voice shaking. He laughed. "75, and half up front." I didn't have $37.5. Not in cash, not anywhere. He leaned in close enough that I smelled wintergreen chew and cigarettes. "You get creative, Marcus, or we start with the kid's fingers." I got creative. I forged Vanessa's signature on a home equity line of credit. Took cash advances on cards I'd hidden in Eli's college fund. Sold Vanessa's grandmother's pearl necklace while she was at a teacher conference. Every dollar felt like another nail in my own coffin, but I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until the insurance paid out. Rocco took the money without counting it. "Trust but verify," he said, and laughed again. We set the date for November 14, 2020, a Saturday departure. Vanessa's parents had been begging us to visit. Perfect cover. I booked a family roomette on the Capital Limited. Told Vanessa it would be romantic. Told Eli it would be like Harry Potter and the Hogwarts Express. He was obsessed with Spider-Man at the time, so I bought him new Spider-Man pajamas for the trip. "So the conductors know you're a superhero," I joked. He wore them proudly. The week before departure, I barely slept. I lost 12 pounds. Vanessa thought I had the flu. I let her think that. I kissed Eli goodnight every night and felt my stomach turn inside out. Friday night, the night before we left, I met Rocco one last time on the observation deck of Union Station after the family had gone to bed at the hotel across the street. The station was mostly empty, just janitors and late travelers.
He handed me a cheap burner flip phone. "Picture of the car," he said, "so my guy knows which sleeper to target." I showed him the photo I'd taken that afternoon. Eli grinning in his Spider-Man pajamas, standing in front of the silver train car, roomette number 8 clearly visible. Rocco nodded approval. "Kid's cute. Shame." I wanted to vomit right there on the marble floor. Instead, I said, "Make it quick." "Quick as physics allows," he answered, and walked away. I stood there for a long time watching the departure board click over to Chicago, 10:05 p.m. departure. My hands shook so badly I dropped the burner phone twice trying to pocket it. That night in the hotel, I lay awake listening to the traffic on Massachusetts Avenue and wondering if I was actually going to let this happen. Vanessa slept curled against me like she had every night for 10 years. Eli snored softly in the rollaway bed, one arm around his stuffed dinosaur. I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up and told myself I still had 24 hours to back out. I didn't back out. Friday morning, we had brunch at the hotel. Eli drew a picture of the three of us on the train, waving out the window. Vanessa tucked it into her purse like it was treasure. We got to Union Station early. I told myself it was excitement. Really, it was terror. Every announcement over the PA system felt like it was speaking directly to me. "Train 29, the Capital Limited, now boarding on track 22, last call." I kept waiting for a sign, a canceled train, a sudden illness, divine intervention, anything, but the universe stayed silent. We walked down the platform. Eli skipped ahead in his little light-up sneakers, dragging his rocket backpack. Vanessa squeezed my hand. "This is going to be so fun," she said. I smiled the smile of a man who has already died inside. The roomette was tiny but perfect. 2 seats that folded into a lower bunk, an upper bunk that pulled down from the ceiling, a little sink, and a window that looked out on the world sliding by. Eli claimed the top bunk immediately. Vanessa laughed and took a selfie of the three of us squished together, cheeks pressed, making silly faces. She posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Next stop, Grandma's Pancakes, heart." I stared at that photo for a long time after she fell asleep that night. The happiness in our eyes looked real. It had been real once. The train pulled out at 10:05 exactly. I remember watching the lights of D.C. recede and feeling something inside me tear in half. Dinner in the dining car was surreal. White tablecloths, a waiter named Darnell who called Eli Captain. Eli ordered mac and cheese and chocolate milk. Vanessa had salmon. I pushed salad around my plate and drank 3 glasses of wine too fast. Back in the roomette, we played Go Fish until Eli started yawning. Vanessa read him 2 chapters of Charlotte's Web, her voice soft and musical, the way it always was at bedtime. I pretended to read a briefing on my phone, but mostly stared out the window at the dark Virginia countryside rushing by. At 11:30, Vanessa kissed Eli goodnight, climbed into the lower bunk with me, and was asleep within minutes. Eli was out cold above us, one arm drangling over the edge, fingers twitching in whatever dreams 6-year-olds have. I lay there in the dark, listening to the clickety-clack of the rails and waiting for the courage to get up and walk to the diner car like we planned. My alibi, my salvation. 1:13 a.m., 1:30 a.m., 1:45 a.m. Any minute now. I sat up slowly so I wouldn't wake Vanessa. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure it would shake the whole car. I reached for my coat on the hook. That's when Eli's small voice floated from the upper bunk. "Daddy?" I froze. "Go back to sleep, buddy. Don't go. It's okay. I'm just getting water." A pause, then barely a whisper. "Daddy,
Why did you give that scary man on the platform a picture of our train car and tell him make sure it's the one with the kid in Spider-Man pajamas?" The world stopped. Every sound, the train, the air conditioning, my own heartbeat disappeared. There was just Eli's voice in the darkness and the sudden sick certainty that he had seen everything. "Eli," I croaked, What are you talking about? You followed me last night when Mommy was asleep. I saw you talking to the bad man with the tattoos. You said if the train breaks tonight, we won't wake up. You said you were sorry, but you had to." I couldn't breathe. He had followed me. My 6-year-old son had crept out of the hotel room in his socks, taken the elevator down, hidden behind a pillar, and watched me hand a hired killer a photograph of his own sleeping face. "Daddy, please don't let the train break," he whispered, and I heard tears in his voice. "I don't want to not wake up." Something inside me shattered like glass.
I don't remember climbing the little ladder to the upper bunk. I just remember pulling him into my arms, his small body shaking with silent sobs against my chest, and feeling every lie I'd ever told myself collapse under the weight of his terror. "I've got you," I whispered into his hair. "I've got you. We're getting off the train." I shook Vanessa awake. She came to groggily, confused, then alarmed when she saw my face. "Marcus, what's—" "We have to get off, right now." The train was slowing for an unexpected stop in Cumberland, Maryland. "Signal issues," the conductor announced. I didn't wait for an explanation. I threw our things into the bags, yanked on coats, scooped Eli into my arms, and ran. We stumbled onto the platform in Cumberland just as the doors closed behind us. The train pulled away into the night without us, red taillights disappearing around a bend. Vanessa was crying and yelling and demanding answers. I couldn't speak. I just held Eli so tight he squeaked and watched the train, our train, the one that was supposed to kill them both, vanish into the dark. 4 hours later, in a Super 8 motel off I-68, my phone started exploding with push notifications. Amtrak train derails in West Virginia, multiple fatalities. Capital Limited catastrophe, search for survivors continues. Sleeper cars plunge into a ravine. I sat on the edge of the bed and vomited into the ice bucket, while Vanessa stared at the television in open-mouthed horror, and Eli clung to my leg like a barnacle. That was the moment I became a confessing man instead of a murdering one. And that is the night my son saved my soul by breaking my heart wide open. The Super 8 in Cumberland, Maryland smelled like old cigarettes and industrial carpet cleaner. Room 217, second floor, window facing the parking lot, and a Waffle House sign that buzzed neon orange all night long. I sat on the edge of the bed with my head in my hands, while the television played the same 10-second clip on loop. Helicopter footage of twisted silver train cars scattered down a ravine like a child's broken toy, flames licking the treetops, emergency lights strobing red and blue across the snow-dusted hills of West Virginia. Vanessa stood 3 feet away from me with her arms wrapped around herself so tightly I thought her ribs might crack. Eli was curled in the middle of the other double bed, finally asleep again after crying himself out, his Spider-Man pajamas twisted around his little body like he'd been fighting monsters in his dreams. I had just finished telling her everything. Not in a neat, linear way, more like a man vomiting up years of poison. The poker, the debts, the threats, the forged signatures, the pearls I sold, the insurance policies I tripled while she was at parent-teacher conferences, the meeting with Rocco in the Roy Rogers parking lot, the photograph of Eli I handed over like it was nothing more than a vacation snapshot. When I got to the part about the derailment being scheduled for 2:17 a.m., her knees buckled. She caught herself on the dresser, knocking over the ice bucket I'd been sick into. The smell of bile mixed with the room's stale air and made everything feel even more unreal. "You paid someone to murder us," she said. Not a question, a statement of fact, delivered in a voice so flat it was worse than screaming. "Yes. And you were going to sit in the diner car and drink coffee while our son burned to death." "Yes." She stared at me for a long time. I waited for her to hit me, to claw my eyes out, to call 911 right then and there. Instead, she walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and I heard the shower start running. She stayed in there for 43 minutes. I know, because I counted every second on the digital clock between the beds. When she came out, her eyes were swollen but dry. She had wrapped herself in every towel the motel owned, like armor. "Eli saved our lives," she said quietly. "Do you understand that? Our 6-year-old had to sneak out of a hotel room in the middle of the night to stop his own father from killing him." I couldn't speak. My throat felt like lined with broken glass. She said, "I want you to look at him." She nodded toward the sleeping child. "Look at him and tell me how you are going to live with yourself." I looked. Eli's mouth was open, one fist still curled near his cheek the way it had been since he was a baby. There was a smear of dried tears on his temple. His chest rose and fell in perfect, trusting rhythm. I started sobbing so hard I thought I would choke. I'd never cried like that in my life, not even when my own father died. It felt like my rib cage was trying to turn itself inside out. Vanessa didn't comfort me. She sat on the opposite bed and stared at the wall until the sun came up. At 6:12 a.m., my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I knew who it was. I let it go to voicemail, then listened anyway. Rocco's voice, gravel and panic. "The fuck happened, Hale? Job went sideways. I had to ride it down myself. You owe me the back half plus hazard. Call me or I come find you." He never got the chance to come find me. The news reported later that the person in interest found dead in the wreckage had been crushed when the locomotive jackknifed. They never released his name publicly, but I knew. I deleted the voicemail, removed the battery from the burner phone, and flushed the SIM card down the toilet in pieces. Vanessa watched me do it without comment. At 7:30 a.m., Vanessa took Eli into the bathroom and ran a bath. I heard her talking to him softly through the door, explaining that Daddy had made a very bad mistake, but that we are safe now and everything is going to be okay. I heard Eli ask if the train was still broken. I heard her say, "Yes, baby, the train is very broken, but we aren't on it anymore." When they came out, Eli was dressed in the spare clothes we'd packed. He looked at me with those huge brown eyes and said, "Are you still my daddy?" The question gutted me more than anything else that night. "Yes," I managed. "Yes, I'm your daddy, and I'm so sorry." He nodded solemnly, like he was processing a complicated math problem, then walked over and climbed into my lap. He smelled of Johnson's baby shampoo and motel soap. He put his head on my shoulder and whispered, "It's okay. You picked us." I don't know how long we sat like that, long enough for checkout time to come and go. Eventually, Vanessa said, "We need to go to the police." I know. Not the local police, FBI, today. I know. She booked us on a 10:45 a.m. Greyhound back to D.C. using her phone while I sat silent. Eli colored on the complimentary notepad with the crayons the front desk lady had given him when she saw his red eyes. He drew a train, then scribbled over it in black until the paper tore. The bus ride was 4 hours of hell. Vanessa sat across the aisle with Eli's head in her lap. She wouldn't look at me. Every time the bus hit a bump, I felt the impact in my bones like punishment. We got off at Union Station, the same place we'd boarded less than 24 hours earlier, and took an Uber straight to the J. Edgar Hoover building.
I walked in carrying Eli's rocket backpack and asked to speak to someone about an attempted mass casualty incident involving Amtrak Train 29. They took us to separate interview rooms. I told the agents everything, twice, then a third time on video. They brought in rail safety experts, terrorism specialists, forensic accountants. They tore my life apart in less than 6 hours and found every skeleton I'd tried to bury. The forged documents, the hidden accounts, the dark web messages, the insurance applications with the little box checked double indemnity, accidental death. Vanessa gave her statement in another room. I found out later she asked for witness protection for herself and Eli before she would even say my name. By nightfall, I was in federal custody. They put me in a holding cell with a stainless steel toilet and a thin blue mat. The agent who processed me, a woman named Reyes, with kind eyes and no smile, read me the charges: conspiracy to commit murder for hire, wire fraud, mail fraud, use of interstate commerce to facilitate murder for hire, attempted destruction of a common carrier resulting in death. The list went on for 2 pages. "You understand these charges carry life without parole?" she asked. "Yes." "You also understand you're confessing voluntarily, no attorney present?" "I want to confess. I want it on record that my wife and son had no knowledge and that my son is the only reason they're alive." She studied me for a long moment, then slid the Miranda waiver across the table. I signed it with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. They moved me to the D.C. jail that night. Orange jumpsuit, ankle shackles, the whole movie of the week experience. My cellmate was a January 6th guy who wanted to talk about election fraud. I stared at the ceiling for 72 hours straight. The story broke wide open the next morning. D.C. lobbyist confesses to plotting wife and child in Amtrak derailment. My firm fired me by email. My mother stopped answering her phone. Old college friends posted shocked face emojis on Facebook. Someone leaked Eli's school photo with the caption, "Imagine trying to murder this face for insurance money." Vanessa filed for emergency sole custody and a restraining order the same day. The judge granted both without a hearing. I didn't fight any of it. The U.S. Attorney's Office offered me a plea, 25 years flat in exchange for full cooperation and testimony against anyone else involved in the gambling ring. I took it the same afternoon. No trial, no circus, no cross-examination of a 6-year-old. Just me in a gray suit 2 sizes too big, standing in a courtroom packed with reporters saying, "Guilty, Your Honor," while the victims' families sobbed behind me. The judge sentenced me on Valentine's Day 2021. He called it a crime of breathtaking cruelty and moral bankruptcy. He was right. Vanessa didn't come to the sentencing. Eli sent a Valentine he'd made in art class, a red construction paper heart with "I still love you, Daddy" written in purple marker. The marshals let me keep it. It's the only thing I was allowed to take with me to prison. They flew me to USP Hazelton in a Con Air jump seat between a cartel accountant and a guy who mailed ricin to a senator. The marshals called it the Hilton on the Hill because it's medium security and sits on a pretty green lawn. It's still prison. Intake was a blur of strip searches and TB tests and being assigned the top bunk in a 6x8 cell with a man named Big Mike who'd killed 3 people with a claw hammer. He took one look at my charge sheet and said, "Damn, white boy, that's cold-blooded." I didn't sleep for the first week. Every time the lights dimmed for count, I saw Eli's face in the dark, heard his whisper, "Please don't let the train break." I started therapy the day I arrived, mandatory for violent offenders. Dr. Alvarez was a soft-spoken Puerto Rican man who didn't flinch when I told him the whole story. He made me say it out loud once a week for 2 years. "You keep saying you're a monster," he said one session. "Monsters don't stop the train." Then what am I? A man who almost became one and then didn't. I still don't know if I believe him. Vanessa filed for divorce 6 months after I arrived. I signed the papers without asking for anything. She kept the house, the dog, the retirement accounts. I kept the debt, which the government seized anyway. She changed Eli's last name to her maiden name, Carter. I didn't contest it. The first year, Eli wasn't allowed to visit. Too young, too traumatized. Vanessa sent pictures, though. Eli starting first grade. Eli missing his 2 front teeth. Eli at Halloween dressed as Spider-Man again because he said it made him feel brave. Every photo was a knife in the ribs. I joined Gamblers Anonymous inside, stood up every Thursday night in the chapel and said, "My name is Marcus and I am a compulsive gambler." The first time I told my bottom story, the room went dead silent. Even the Aryans stopped whispering. One guy in the back actually started clapping slow like it was performance art. I started working in the education department, tutoring guys for their GED, then teaching basic computer skills, then running the Parenting from Prison program, because the irony was apparently hilarious to the warden. I stood in front of a room of murderers and rapists and told them how to write letters to their kids that didn't make the kids hate them. Every class I taught, Eli's face floated in front of me like a ghost. 2 years in, Vanessa allowed supervised visits. The first one was in a beige room with plastic chairs and a corrections officer who looked like he ate nails for breakfast. Eli walked in wearing a little button-down shirt tucked into khakis, hair combed like he was going to church. He stopped 3 feet away and just stared at me. I knelt down, chains rattling. "Hey, buddy." He ran into my arms so hard he knocked me backward. The corrections officer started forward, but I shook my head and he backed off. Eli smelled of the same baby shampoo. He pressed his face into my neck and whispered, "I knew you'd stop the train." I cried so hard they almost ended the visit early. We get 4 hours a month now. He's 11, tall, lanky, still those huge eyes. He brings drawings and report cards and tells me about school projects. He wants to be a train engineer when he grows up. Not the gambling kind, he says, the kind who fixes tracks so nothing bad happens again. Vanessa waits in the car. She doesn't come in anymore. Sometimes she waves if I catch her eye through the window. I'm up for parole in 8 years. The board likes my clean record, my program participation, the fact I still send every cent of my 35-cent an hour prison wages to Eli's college fund.
Probably deny me the first time anyway. That's okay. I'm not going anywhere until I've earned the right to breathe free air again. Some nights I still wake up sweating, hearing metal scream and feeling the lurch of a train that never quite derailed for us. I reach for Eli in the dark and remember he's safe 300 miles away, sleeping in a bed I'll never tuck him into again. And I whisper into the dark the same thing every time. Thank you for following me that night, buddy. Thank you for saving us all. The first thing you learn in federal prison is that time is not a line. It is a circle that keeps coming back to the same spot. Count at 4:05 a.m., stand-up count at 9:15 a.m., noon count, 4 p.m. count, 9 p.m. count, lights out at 10:15 p.m. Every day, the same numbers, the same faces, the same gray walls painted the color of old teeth. 5 years in, I can close my eyes and walk the entire compound blindfolded, from C Block to the Chow Hall, past the chapel with the peeling Jesus mural, across the yard where the weight pile clangs like church bells, down the hill to education where I spend most of my daylight hours trying to give other men the second chance I threw away. I am 41 now. My hair has gone half salt, half pepper. The lines around my eyes are deep enough that Eli traces them with his finger during visits and asks if they hurt. I tell him they're just reminders, like the scar on his knee from when he fell off his bike at 6. He accepts that the way only kids can. I have a routine now, a life, if you can call it that. 0405, stand for count. 0430, coffee in the unit with Big Mike. He made parole last year, but his little brother Jamal took the bottom bunk. 0515, walk the track until the sun comes up over the razor wire. I do 4 miles every morning, rain, snow, or Carolina blue sky. My knees sound like popcorn, but I keep going because Eli once told me he wants me to be strong when I get out. 0700, breakfast. Oatmeal if they're feeling generous, grits if they're not. 0800, report to education. I teach GED math Monday, Wednesday, Friday, parenting class Tuesday, Thursday, and I run the victim impact panel once a month where I stand in front of new arrivals and tell them exactly what I did so they understand the ripple before they create their own. Noon, lunch, then library detail. I shelve books, repair torn spines with prison glue, and sneak novels into cells for guys who can't read well enough to fill out a commissary form, but will stay up all night sounding out Harry Potter because it makes them feel like kids again. Afternoon, rec yard or gym. I lift with the old heads now, the ones doing natural life who have nothing left to prove. They call me Professor because I wear reading glasses a librarian traded me for 2 honey buns. Evening, chow again, then mail call. I live for mail call. Night, write letters I may or may not send, read whatever dog-eared paperback is circulating this week, lie on my bunk and stare at the underside of Jamal's mattress while I replay every second, third, 10th chances I didn't take. Mail call is sacred. Vanessa writes once a month on pale blue stationery that still smells faintly of the lavender lotion she used when we were married. Her letters are short, factual, careful. Eli's doing travel soccer. He made honor roll. He asked if he can bring his new stepdad to the next visit just to meet you. She never says she misses me. She never says she hates me anymore either. That's progress, I guess. Eli's letters are the opposite. Wild, sprawling, full of exclamation points and drawings in the margins. He sends report cards, straight A's in math because you taught me fractions, Dad. Team photos, he's number 11 now, plays striker. And once a pressed 4-leaf clover he found on the field, for luck when you come home. I keep every piece of paper in a manila envelopes labeled by year. The envelopes live in my locker box along with the red construction paper Valentine from 2021 and the only 2 photographs I'm allowed. Eli at 8 blowing out birthday candles, and Eli at 10 holding a blue ribbon from the science fair. His project was on railroad signaling systems. The irony again. The COs know not to mess with my envelopes. Even the hardest ones have a soft spot for kids' drawings. I earn 35 cents an hour teaching. After the government takes its cut for restitution, I have maybe $40 on my books. I spend 20 on hygiene, 10 on coffee, and the rest goes into Eli's college fund that Vanessa administers. She sends me the statements every quarter so I can see the balance grow. $4,812.63 as of last month. It's a joke compared to the $6 million I almost murdered for, but it's honest money, and that matters. Some nights I dream the train again. I'm walking through the diner car with a cup of coffee I never ordered, and every seat is occupied by a different version of myself. The Marcus who won his first poker tournament. The Marcus who proposed to Vanessa on the National Mall at cherry blossom time. The Marcus who taught Eli to ride his bike without training wheels. They all stare at me with accusation, while the car fills with smoke and the windows shatter outward. I wake up gasping, sweat-soaked, the dream so real I can taste diesel. Jamal pretends not to notice. In the morning I do an extra lap around the track to outrun the ghosts. I have become a prison cliché in some ways, the educated white-collar guy who found Jesus, or at least a higher power that doesn't laugh at second chances. I facilitate the Thursday night NA-GA meeting now. 25 guys in folding chairs, half of them with teardrop tattoos and life sentences, listening to me talk about the exact moment my addiction tried to murder my family. They nod like they understand. Some of them do. One kid, Trey, 19 years old, in for fentanyl distribution, started sitting in the front row after I told my bottom. After group, he asked if I could help him write a letter to his little sister apologizing for missing her quinceañera. We worked on it for 3 weeks. When he got her reply, 8 pages in purple ink, complete with hearts over every I, he cried so hard the CO threatened to write him up for disruption. I kept a copy of that letter, too. It lives in the same envelope as Eli's 4-leaf clover. I have become the guy other inmates come to when they need to confess something too heavy for the chaplain. Men who've done things that would make civilians faint tell me their worst secrets because they know I no longer have the right to judge anyone. I just listen, nod, and say the same thing every time. You still have time to make it right with the people who matter. Start there. I practice what I preach. 2 years ago, I started writing Eli a letter every single week. Not the short safe notes I send through the mail system, long, raw, unfiltered letters that I keep in a separate box. When I get out, if I get out, I'll give him the whole box so he can read the parts of me I couldn't say to his face. There are 112 letters so far. I'm on volume 3. Some are apologies, some are explanations, never excuses. Some are just memories. The first time he said "dada," the way he used to fall asleep on my chest on Sunday football. The Christmas he asked Santa for a real lightsaber and cried when it didn't work in real life. I write about the smell of the grass on the National Mall in spring, the exact shade of blue Vanessa's eyes were the day we got married, the sound of his laugh when I pushed him too high on the swings. I write so he'll know I never stopped seeing him, even when I almost stopped him from existing. Vanessa remarried last year. His name is Daniel Park, a pediatric resident she met when Eli broke his wrist falling off the monkey bars. He's Korean-American, calm, plays guitar, makes a killer bulgogi according to Eli. They had a small ceremony in her parents' backyard in Chicago. Eli was the ring bearer. He sent me a photo. Him in a tiny gray suit, hair slicked down, grinning like he'd won the World Cup. On the back he wrote, "Daniel's nice, but you're still my real dad." I stared at that photo for 3 days straight. Vanessa included a short note. "I thought you should see this. He wanted you to have it." Nothing more. No, I forgive you. No, I hope you're okay. Just the photo and the knowledge that she's building a life that no longer includes me in it. I cried in the shower so no one would hear. Daniel has never come to a visit, and I don't expect him to. But Eli talks about him without guilt now. Daniel taught him a new soccer move. Daniel helped with his Pinewood Derby car. Daniel let him stay up late to watch the Perseid meteor shower. Each story is a small kindness I can't give behind glass and steel. Ungrateful for every one. I turned 41 last month. The unit threw me an illegal birthday party. 2 ramen noodle packs, a squeezed-out honey packet for frosting, and a candle made from a rolled-up Bible page. Jamal sang happy birthday off-key while the CO pretended not to notice. I got 1 phone call. I used it to call Eli.
He's 11 now, voice starting to crack. He told me about tryouts for the select soccer team, about a girl in his class who keeps passing him notes, about how Daniel is teaching him to drive in an empty parking lot, even though he's 4 years too young. Then he got quiet. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy." "Do you think, when you get out, do you think maybe we could go on a train ride together? Like a do-over?" I had to cover my mouth so he wouldn't hear me lose it. "Absolutely," I said when I could speak. "Anywhere you want. I'll buy the tickets myself. Promise? Cross my heart." He was quiet again. Then, "I love you, Dad. I love you more than all the stars, Eli. Never forget that." After we hung up, I sat in the phone booth. really just a stool bolted to the wall, and cried until the CO tapped my shoulder and told me time was up. Some days the guilt is a living thing with teeth. Other days it's just a dull ache I've learned to carry. Most days it's a mixture. I still flinch when I hear train whistles. The prison is close enough to the tracks that we hear freight trains rumble past a couple times a night. The first year I would cover my ears like a child. Now I just listen and breathe through it, the way Dr. Alvarez taught me. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. The sound no longer makes me puke, but it will never be neutral again. I have become the prison's unofficial archivist of regret. Guys bring me their apology letters, their custody motions, their last chance pleas to judges. I edit, I encourage, I tell them the truth. She may never forgive you, but you still owe her the words. I have written more apologies than Hallmark. Some get answered, most don't. Mine to Vanessa still sits unsent in the box with Eli's letters. I'm waiting for the day I can hand it to her in person and let her decide whether to burn it or read it. Parole hearing is scheduled for 2033. I will be 49. Eli will be 19, maybe in college, maybe not speaking to me at all by then. The board will look at my file, spotless disciplinary record, hundreds of program completions, victim impact panels, mentoring, the fact I turned down protective custody even after the Aryan Brotherhood put a green light on me for killing kids. They didn't care that I didn't succeed. They'll see the college fund statements, the letters from Dr. Alvarez, the character references from COs who aren't supposed to write them but do anyway. They'll also see 27 names on a list, 27 people who died on that train because I paid a man to break it, 27 families who will never get a do-over. Some of them write to me. Not many, but enough. A mother whose daughter was traveling to her wedding, a husband whose wife was coming home from her mother's funeral, a teenager on his way to boot camp who never made it. Their letters are razor blades wrapped in envelopes. I read every one. I write back to everyone. I keep them for safety in a separate box, too, because some debts can't be paid with $40 a month and good intentions. I dream about them sometimes, too. Not as often as I dream about the train, but often enough. They stand at the foot of my bunk in the dark and ask why. I never have an answer that's good enough. But I keep trying to find one anyway. Because Eli asked me to be strong. Because one day I want to be the kind of man who deserves to sit across from his son on a real train, no glass between us, and watch the world roll by without terror. Because the only thing louder than the whistle of a freight train at 2 a.m. is the voice of a 6-year-old boy saying, "Please don't let the train break." And I didn't. I stopped it. I stopped me. The year is 2034. I am 49 years old, and today the parole board said yes. I didn't expect it. 10 years ago, when they stamped "denied" on my first application in red ink thick enough to feel through the paper, I told myself I would never get my hopes up again. I told myself I deserved to die in here. Most days, I still believe that. But the chaplain handed me the official notice this morning after count, and the words were right there in black and white. Grant parole effective March 15, 2035. Mandatory supervised release to the District of Columbia. Conditions: no contact with gambling establishments, continued therapy, restitution payments, and residence at the Hope Hall Reentry Facility for a minimum of 12 months. I sat on my bunk and read it 5 times before the letters stopped swimming. Then I folded it into the smallest square I could manage and slipped it inside the red construction paper valentine Eli made me in 2021. I have carried that valentine in my shirt pocket every single day for 14 years. The edges are soft as cloth now, the glue long gone.
but the purple marker words are still there. I still love you, Daddy. Jamal, my last bunkie, now doing a 10-year bid for armed robbery, found me sitting there staring at the wall. Jamal, my last bunkie, now doing a 10-year bid for armed robbery, found me sitting there staring at the wall. Professor, you good? I'm letting me out. My voice cracked like a 13-year-old's. He whooped so loud the CO banged on the door and threatened to lock us down. Then he hugged me hard enough to crack ribs and said, "You earned this, old man. Don't waste it." I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the top bunk listening to the 2:17 a.m. freight train rumble past the hill like it has every night for 14 years, and for the first time, the sound didn't flinch me. It sounded like a heartbeat, like something alive that kept going even after everything went wrong. I spent the next 11 months preparing the way a man prepares for a second birth. I finished my associate's degree through the prison college program, criminal justice, because the universe has a sense of humor. I completed every single course the BOP offers: victim impact, anger management, twice, parenting from prison, financial literacy, relapse prevention. I saved every dime of prison wages until I had almost $6,000 in a release account. I wrote the apology letter to Vanessa that had been growing inside me for 14 years, 47 handwritten pages. I mailed it the week before Christmas with no expectation of an answer. I memorized the DC Metro map again because the city I knew is gone and rebuilt twice over. I practiced saying, "I'm sorry," in the mirror until the words stopped tasting like rust. And I kept writing Eli. Every Sunday night, same as always. Letter 612 went out 2 weeks ago. In it, I told him the news. I told him I was scared. I told him I didn't know how to be a free man anymore. I told him I understood if he never wanted to see me again, but that I would spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the second chance he gave me when he was 6 years old and braver than I have ever been. He hasn't answered yet. That's okay. Some replies take a lifetime. March 14th, 2035, my out-processing day. I woke up at 3 a.m., same as always. I rolled my blanket the prison way, corners tight enough to bounce a quarter. I gave Jamal my radio, my good headphones, the extra ramen I'd been saving. I shook hands with every man on the tier who was awake, even the ones who once wanted me dead. I signed the property slip for the clothes they issued me: stiff jeans, a gray hoodie that smells like mothballs, size 11 sneakers that are half a size too big. I walked out of C Block for the last time carrying one small cardboard box, the manila envelopes full of Eli's letters and drawings, the red Valentine, the 47-page apology to Vanessa, and a single photograph of Eli at 11 holding his science fair ribbon. No one meets you at the gate in real life. There's no swelling music, no slow-motion run into anyone's arms. There's just a gray prison van, a bored driver, and a 300-mile ride to the halfway house in Northeast D.C. I watched West Virginia roll by the window. Green hills, coal towns, the same mountains that swallowed that train. I cried quietly so the driver wouldn't notice. When we crossed the Potomac into D.C., the cherry trees were already blooming, pink and perfect and indifferent to everything I'd done. Hope Hall is a converted row house on Rhode Island Avenue with bars on the windows and a house manager named Miss Loretta who has seen every kind of broken man there is. She took one look at my file, looked me in the eye, and said, "You hurt a child, Mr. Hale. Don't you ever forget whose air you're breathing now." I never do. I was assigned the top bunk in a 4-man room. My roommates, a 70-year-old grandfather who sold fentanyl to pay his wife's medical bills, a 23-year-old who robbed a bank with a note that said, "I have a bomb," and a quiet Salvadoran man who won't tell anyone what he did. We nod at each other like soldiers who survived different wars. My first morning of freedom, I woke up at 4:05 out of habit and stood in the middle of the room waiting for count that never came. Then I walked to the corner store and bought a cup of coffee for the first time in 14 years. It tasted like pennies and heaven. I got a job within a week. Irony again. The D.C. chapter of the National Railroad Safety Council hired me as a community outreach coordinator. My boss, a woman named Keisha, who lost her brother in the derailment, interviewed me herself. She said, "I read your victim statement. I know what you did. I also know what you didn't do in the end. You're going to talk to kids about choices. You're going to show them your scars. If you ever glorify what you almost became, you're gone the same day." I have never worked harder in my life. I speak at high schools, juvenile detention centers, church basements. I stand in front of rooms full of teenagers who look just like I did at 16, bored, cocky, certain nothing bad will ever happen to them. And I tell them about the night I almost murdered my family for money. I show them the red Valentine. I let them see me cry. Some laugh at first. Most don't laugh by the end. Eli is 20 now. He's a junior at Virginia Tech studying civil engineering with a minor in railway systems, because of course he is. He has his mother's smile and my old stubborn streak. He drives a 2029 Honda Civic that he paid for himself with summer construction jobs. He has a girlfriend named Amara who wants to be an architect. He has not answered my last 3 letters. That's okay too. I keep writing. Every Sunday night, same as always. Letter 687 went out last week. In it, I told him I live in a halfway house now. I told him I drink coffee that doesn't taste like burnt rubber. I told him the cherry blossoms are early this year. I told him I understand if he needs more time. I told him the door will stay open until I'm dead. 2 nights ago, my phone, my first cell phone in 14 years, a cheap Android from Walmart, buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Unknown Virginia number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "Dad?" I sat down hard on the thin mattress in my halfway house room. "Eli?" "Yeah, it's me." His voice is deep now, a man's voice, but I would know it anywhere. We talked for 2 hours and 13 minutes. He told me about his senior design project, a fail-safe braking system for high-speed rail. He told me Amara thinks I sound intense but sincere. He told me Vanessa got remarried again, this time to a woman named Sophia who coaches girls soccer. He told me Daniel moved to Seattle for a fellowship, and they all miss him, but life goes on. Then he got quiet. "I read your letters," he said. "All of them. Mom gave me the box last year when I turned 19. I didn't want to at first, but I did." I couldn't speak. "I'm still mad," he said. "I think I'll always be a little mad, but I'm not 6 anymore. I understand, not everything, but enough. And I miss you." I cried so hard I had to put the phone down and breathe into a pillow so I wouldn't wake the house. "Can I see you?" I asked when I could talk again. "No pressure, just whenever you're ready." He was quiet for a long time. "There's a train," he said finally, "the Crescent, leaves D.C. at 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and gets into Blacksburg Sunday morning. I checked the schedule." My heart tried to climb out of my chest. "I could meet you at Union Station," I whispered. "We could ride together, or I could just wave from the platform, whatever you want." Another long silence. "I think," he said slowly, "I think I want to ride with you, like a do-over." I closed my eyes and saw him at 6 in Spider-Man pajamas, whispering, "Don't let the train break." "I would like that very much," I said. We picked a date, the 2nd Saturday in May. He'll come up on Friday night, stay with his mom, and we'll meet at the station at 5:30. He asked if we could get a roomette, for old time's sake. I told him I would sleep in the baggage car if that's what he wanted. I have not gambled away a single minute since the night he saved us. I have not lied to a single person who mattered. I have paid restitution every month until the judge closed the file. I have spoken to over 10,000 kids about the moment a man chooses to become a monster or to stop. But nothing I have done in 14 years of atonement will matter as much as the moment I step onto that platform and see my son, 20 years old, taller than me now, carrying the same rocket backpack he had at 6 because he kept it all these years, walking towards me with his hand out, with a question in his eyes. I will take that hand. I will not let go until he tells me to. And somewhere down the line, when the train pulls out of Union Station and the city lights start to blur into streaks like they did that night in 2020, I will look at him across the little fold-down table in our roomette, and I will say the words I have practiced in my head 10,000 nights. Thank you for following me into the dark when you were 6. Thank you for being braver than I have ever been. Thank you for giving me the chance to become the father you deserved all along. And if he lets me, I will spend whatever years I have left trying to deserve the gift he gave me on a cold train platform when he was small enough to fit in my arms and big enough to save the world. The train will carry us south through the night, past the same mountains that almost swallowed us, past every mile marker of regret, until the sun comes up over a new morning we both earned the hard way. This time, I will not be in the diner car pretending to drink coffee. This time, I will be right there beside him, holding his hand if he'll let me, watching the world roll by in perfect, ordinary safety. And when the conductor calls all aboard, I will finally believe I am. Because a 6-year-old boy in Spider-Man pajamas once whispered a warning that stopped a monster in his tracks, and a 49-year-old man in a gray hoodie learned how to spend the rest of his life saying thank you with every breath. The circle is complete. The tracks are clear. The train is on time. And for the first time in 14 years, I am not afraid of the sound of a whistle in the dark.